back at you all. Let me put this up. Hope y'all's been enjoying your vacation from the world as we knew it. Hope you're mutating into your new now, your new normal. All those things they keep telling you you'll have to adapt to. Yes, never too late to mutate, as they say. But they keep telling us what the portrait of that mutation, of that new now, of that prescribed reality that we must embrace is. And this is not the case. We have choices here. We have choices as to how we interact with one another, how we individualistically make our choices and take action upon our choices. Now, the typical pattern is to embrace the known and what we have gone through and what we are familiar with, and try to reinforce that and keep it going. And it's comfortable. It's what we know. It's what we've been taught. It's those old axioms like truth, justice, and the American way. Your word is your bond. The harder I work, the luckier I get. All of these sort of things are up in the air now, and they're coming into juxtaposition with one another, and we're having to look at the light and dark qualities of these old paradigms, because a lot of us are sitting here feeling adrift at sea, lost on a little raft without a paddle, you know? Just praying for the good old days to come back. Just praying that the conspiracy theorists aren't right and that they unleashed this upon us so that they could wreak more control and surveillance and inoculations upon the herd of humanity. The infamous they, them from the dark, them from the dark, them from the dark. Yes, yes. The infamous they. Bill Gates sure seems to be getting his share of his infamous theydom, doesn't he now? Well, let me tell you something. I don't know about those waste chemicals that are in all those vaccines and stuff. And if this was contrived and laid upon us, I'm sure they've got the results and answers to the problems that they contrived just the way they want them. And so, you know, typically Uncle Guido's here to help you lift your vibration, to get into a higher state of consciousness, fifth dimensional consciousness. And my premise is that you are much more than this lowly little caterpillar like we talked about before. You are a butterfly awaiting to emerge from your chrysalis and to fly upon a much lighter density than groveling around in the dirt, scraping by, you know, regardless of your stance left or right. Boy, that $1,200 check sure is tasty. I'm not going to bitch about that. I got to get my little chunk of the pie. Meanwhile, all these corporations are getting millions just printed out of thin air. Nobody cares. Nobody's saying anything about that. Nobody's looking at the downline ramifications of 2.5, 3 trillion. What the hell's it up to now? You know, our buddies need more dough. Let's start printing, huh? Yeah, we'll let our grandkids pay for it, the little schmucks. Anyway, I'm here to ask you this. Did you take my last message of the Golden Jubilee, the Millennial Jubilee? can we just let go of the old dead detritus that we've been looking at and saying, oh man, this is the way the game's played, but I know there's something funky going on here. I know that this just doesn't quite seem right. I know that I'm a cog in the gigantic machine where 1% control everything, and I'm sitting here scraping by just trying to keep up on my payments. Thank God for those credit cards so I can get a few more goodies, and I'll work harder to pay for those in the future, right? Right, yeah, goodies, future, you know, quantitative easing, home equity loans and all that. All these contrived little control mechanisms to keep you under the yoke of serfdom to the infamous them from the dark. My friends, embrace the Jubilee. Let go of everything. I mean, there's so many of my dear friends out there that are just struggling to come up with the rent and food, and these food pantries are being stretched to their limits, and the lines are miles around. And let's not forget the dead. There's a lot of people who have been weakened by the food chain, by the glyphosates, by the chemicals, by the, pharmaceuticals and all their side effects. Oh, I got anal leakage again. Give me another pill for that while I'm at it. Motherfuckers. Anyway, I could really go off on them, but what I want to go off on is you and how to lift your vibration to create your reality in the midst of this chaos. Believe it or not, this chaos is the perfect womb from which to create a whole new paradigm. And what we must remember from the previous readings on the corona epidemic situation was that we did not do a very good job caring for one another. We did not do a very good job caring for Mother Earth, our mother, the giver of everything. These robber barons figured out they could come in and exploit the raw materials everywhere they go. Hey, there's a bunch of indigenous people there. I'll sweep them out of the way. Let's take their oil. Let's take their rubber. Let's set up a banana plantation. Let's spray it with a bunch of chemicals from Dow and Monsanto and Roundup. Yeah, that glyphosates and everything. It's weakened you. It's got you stressed. You're sitting here watching me on the computer. You're bathed in Wi-Fi rays. All of this stuff is putting tension on your body and stressing it out and telling your body to go into immune response, tension, adrenaline, all that sort of thing. You know, and all of a sudden they zap you with all this fear. I mean, if you're still watching mainstream news, shame on you. You're a boob. Their job is to dial up that fear vibration so you go spiraling down the toilet of fear. And when you're going in that direction, all sorts of crap can glom on you. And going down the toilet, crap will glom on you. Anyway, I like that one. When you are in the positivity, when you're telling jokes, when you're laughing, when you're singing a song, when you're out there in nature just going, oh my God, look at that, look at that. I see the all and I say, that's just me. How can I convey to you the peace that I feel in these troubled times? How can I help you create your reality so that you can maneuver your way through the little maze of man's world that is falling apart at the seams? How can I help you to open up your third eye and start to operate on the fifth dimensional plane? How can I encourage you to take these things that I say and just chew on them a little bit? Isn't there a ray of hope in there? Isn't there something that you may want to get behind? We have this grand opportunity to start from a clean slate. Now, I realize there's lots of pressure to keep the lights on and to keep the fridge full and maintain the status quo kind of thing. But I guarantee you the status quo from the infamous them that control every government on the planet, right and left, all parties, The controllers, the banks, the money, the corporate globalists, whoever's above that even. I mean, this is way above presidents. Presidents, they're little schmucks that they put down here to take all the dung being flung and encourage us to point at each other. I'm left, you're right, fuck you. Anyway, we're here to look at our choices, our empowerment, how we can come into the world and make it a better place than which we found it, even in the hardest of times. Folks, let me tell you, it's in the hardest of times when the human spirit rallies and lifts itself up to levels it did not conceive it was capable of lifting itself to. Let me tell you something. I've been outside a lot. I've been playing music a lot. I'm still working too. Up here in Montana, nothing's changed for this cowboy. Now, I know a lot of people have bought into this fear, and the minute you buy into fear, all sorts of little negative, little nattering nabobs can grab a hold of you and say, yes, Guido, we're going to disease you and kill you and fuck you up. Anyway, excuse my French. That negative thing going down that spiral, it opens you up to all of the heavy, dense 3D darkness. But when you can pause and take a moment and lend yourself and help somebody, give them a meal, throw them a buck, you know, haul their trash. It starts out very simply like this, and then the next step unfolds, and you have a meal together, and maybe the face masks come down, and you're not so afraid. Let me tell you something. When you are in service and light and joy and appreciation, no disease can affect you. When you are laughing, you cannot catch anything. That's my job. I go out there, I'm the happy huckster trying to crack jokes and tell people, you know, hey, lighten up. Because the minute you lighten up, nothing can affect you. You become a force for goodness, and you start spiraling out, and your aura expands instead of contracts. Your aura expands and allows new ideas and things to come in. The hemispheres of your brain start to intermingle and activate that third eye so that you can begin to see the true pathway through this darkness that we are dealing with. I almost think this is one of the best things that's ever happened. There are lots of sacred cow institutions that gotta go, and we've talked about this, so I don't need to repeat myself. Mom and Pop, oh my God, I've never been so happy in all my life to go sit in a restaurant even though there was nobody in the table next to me. Excuse me. Corona. Anyway, you know, I've been throwing some cards here. Let's go back to do some numerology real quick. This is the year 2020. And if anything, we should be seeing clearly now. I can see clearly now. The rain is gone. Anyway, what do we got? We've got Fox, we've got CNN, we got MSNBC, we got NPR, we got everybody telling us this load of shit that backs the story from the status quo. It says, be afraid. Everything's about to collapse. The supply chains are hanging on by a thread. Oh my God. Well, yes, we have ignored our harmony within the natural order of things for quite some time. And, you know, you're just sitting there fiddling around, playing with your stuff, doing your Xbox, you know, going to work, paying the bills, locked in the dream, consuming, because that's what you were trained to do. You can't help yourself. You're a consumer. Look at me. I'm in the middle of all this stuff. But are we attached to any of it? During this time of crisis, have you had an opportunity to look around and say, you know, that just doesn't fucking matter anymore. What matters is my family. What matters is surviving and loving and being with one another. Hopefully a lot of you have taken this time to really reinforce the bonds of family and sitting down to dinner and communicating. You know, if you're just lost into the phone or the computer or fear, you've got a ways to go to extricate yourself from this quagmire of sequestration of corona malarkey that was invented and dispersed upon the population back before 2020 began. Anyway, back to numerology. 2020. 20 plus 20. I can see clearly. See, it's a metaphor for a clear vision. And right now there's so much crap going on I can't see shit. But 20 plus 20 equals 40. 4 is the number of the emperor. 0 is the number of the fool. We really have an opportunity to take a leap into the unknown and build something new, structure it differently. We really have the opportunity to look at this notion of the haves and have-nots. Just one coin there. Have not. Same coin. Dualism. This is the plane of dualism. My friends, this is where we are at. What are we going to choose? Are we going to choose to go down the fear and the same old path, knee-jerk reactions that we always did? Or are we going to do something differently? Are we going to break out in revolution and try to overthrow the government violently and let them go to town on us with their wonderful weaponry and everything else? It's up to us. Can we do the Gandhi thing and change society peacefully? I think so. I think anything is possible. Can we define the new paradigm under the terms from which we were brought up, educated, trained? Can the people who made the problem fix the problem, or do we have to come up with something completely new? It's up to you, my friends. And what we have to consider is there's 6, 7, 8, or 9 billion of us here, and each one of us holds a piece of this puzzle. Each one of us deserves to participate. Anyone who is hoarding and actively playing the 1% to the disadvantage of others, I just don't know what to tell you. I'm not going to judge you, but it seems like there's a whirlwind spinning all around us in every which direction, waiting to come forward. We have to really look into our hearts. How many of us before this happened had been just trudging through the same old grind? I gotta go to this job, and oh my God, I got so many bills and all this stuff, and I'm never home, and I never get to do what I want. But you just keep playing that game because that's what you were told you need to do. Well, sooner or later, and now we're in the later. It's here. Change is afoot. Change is afoot. And it's time for action. And if you're just trying to do the same old, God help you. It's going to get tough. If you are ready to adapt, to evolve, it's never too late to mutate, right? Right? Okay. You may just be shown something new. Right now, the world is taking a breath of release from man's onslaught of pollution. The earth is going, oh wow, I can breathe again. Up here in Montana, get out into it. Those that are closing off the parks should never be doing that. Get into the nature and get your bare feet out there and wiggle your toes in the dirt. Do not worry about disease. Disease cannot affect you when you are in the positive spiral, looking to the universal creator to work through you to be part of the solution instead of part of the fear and the little, oh my goodness, syndrome. It feels like I'm still banging these things. 2020 is a 40. What power are you going to claim for yourself? For me, I'm on a 70-7 year. This is a very spiritual, creative, and take my own power year for me. Convey spiritual wisdom to others. Help others to see through the obstacles of life that I have worked my way through. Trust me, folks. Right now the universe is bombarding you with higher vibrational cosmic rays that are actually mutating your cells. When you were locked down in fear and watching TV all the time and distracting yourself in man's low vibrational frequencies, it makes it just harder for you to really, truly elevate your own personal vibration. And it is these people that can get into this space that will come down with the solutions for a new paradigm, a new implementation of ways to address our problems. We become too complacent, we become too reticent, we become too used to this easy peasy, comfort-laden lifestyle that, believe it or not, we have it pretty darn good, especially here in America. Dang dootin'. But this complacency has come home to roost. So it's time. Wow.